The biggest thing when you're going to work with the city is to make sure that they're on board with the project that you're doing. You want to make sure that if it's going to require a public hearing, that you have the city staff on your side and they're okay with it. Because if you have a set of plans, the city staff isn't really excited, you can still submit and bring application. But if they're going to go in front of the board, present the project and say, I'm not comfortable nor in favor of this, could be the way it's going to go.
If you're an active real estate investor and you're looking to do larger deals, you're in the right place. We are going to go and take the conceptual type of stuff that you listen to from other real estate podcasts and bring it down to the tactical, the nitty gritty, the actual actionable types of things that other real estate investors that went big did to grow their own real estate empire. You're listening to the Go Big Live podcast. I'm your host, Matt Druin.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors podcast. I'm your host, Matt Druin. I have a very special guest with me today. We're going to talk about some ugly stuff that happens in the multifamily large deal space. And I am incredibly excited to have Mike Strodtman on the podcast. And a little bit about Mike is that he is a seasoned real estate investor with over a decade of experience. His passion for real estate ignited during graduate school, where he earned his master's in urban and regional studies. Starting as a city planner, he soon realized he belonged on the other side of the table, and he began his real estate journey by investing in single-family homes and small multifamily units. He's not just a passive investor. He's purchased subdivided land and even acted as a general contractor for ground-up construction. Today, Mike focuses on syndicating and joint ventures, tackling multifamily, self-storage, retail, and industrial projects. That's a little bit about Mike. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, cool. So we were talking in the green room a little bit in terms of what we're going to talk about today, but I want to ask you first, you were born and now you're here. What happened in between?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Minnesota, central part, and grew up like most kids, enjoying sports, going to school and taking advantage of the short summer months that we have here. Right after school, I ended up going to high school. I went to South Dakota where I got my bachelor's degree. Went to Mankato, Minnesota, MSU, and I received my master's in urban and regional studies. And from there, I became a city planner. I did that for about 5 years. And as you mentioned, you quickly realize, the reason I got into the field was my love and joy for real estate. It began in college, paying somebody to live in their house. And I'm thinking, if I bought a house, I could have my roommates pay me and I wouldn't have to pay any rent. Thankfully, that didn't happen because who knows what would have happened to that house with, 4 or 5 college guys in it. But after I graduated, then I went on to grad school, and again, carrying that joy and a love for real estate, I thought, I should become a city planner. So did that, went and became a city planner, enjoyed it. I mean, it was great meeting with developers and reviewing site plans and building plans and what they had visions of. And I wanted to do that. But there I was sitting there looking at these plans and seeing them actually doing the real fun part of it, building it, getting it leased up and holding on to it for cash flow. And I quickly realized, I should jump to the other side. And that's where I finally began buying real estate on my own, 2009.
Absolutely. So the subject of this show is that we talk about deals that were kind of a stretch. I mean, there's a lot of people that are listening to this right now that maybe own a couple of, single family duplexes and that sort of thing. So we were talking in the green room about this ground up development project. Can you kind of tell me what in the world made you pivot towards that after, doing the smaller buy and hold deals, and kind of what was the moment that made you flip that switch and the origin of it and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So beginning to buy in 2009, 9, 10, 11, 12, even 13, 14, really, the price of single family homes, small multis was very lucrative. You could definitely make them cash flow. And actually, find them with the debt service coverage ratio pushing 2. And so it was great. We were buying as many as we can. And a lot of us start on our own and you build up that little nest egg for another down payment and then you buy another one and buy another one. At that time, I wish I'd known what I know now to bring others in, raise some capital, do more joint ventures, and would have been able to take down a lot more deals. Hindsight is always 20/20. But that's the quick lessons learned. But as we moved out of that phase of being able to buy these properties that just cash flowed so well, I'm still watching people buy them, but you're looking again. We're talking these small multis, but you're at they're looking at cash flow 100, $150 a door. The numbers just got a lot tighter. So
Mm-hmm.
I started looking at doing some ground up construction. I reviewed a bunch of different plans. I actually sat down and took a number of plans and just kind of created my own build. Worked with the contractor. We scratched out some numbers. Obviously, go to the bank, talk to the bank, scratch the numbers out a little bit more, and realize that I could still cash flow them fairly decent. The number is closer to $150 a door, $200 a door, but I'm also have a brand new product where before you're buying stuff that has a lot of deferred maintenance. Or
Mm-hmm.
you got a roof that's going to be coming up pretty soon. So you got to put all those numbers in, and pretty soon everything gets eaten up. Or the
Yeah.
furnace is older. So you have everything that's older. Where I thought if I can just buy and build something brand new, cash flow a little bit less, but have a brand new product. So that's what made me look at doing that.
So tell me about, like, was this a piece of land that was for sale, a piece of dirt that was for sale that you just stumbled into? Were you actively out there like combing the MLS and LoopNet and Crexy for build sites? Tell me about like how this like opportunity came to you from its inception.
Yeah. So for me, I do a lot of searching on my own, finding properties, finding the property owners, looking them up, contacting them, and seeing if they'd be willing to sell. Structure's already there. Otherwise, in this situation, which was vacant land, and so I ended up purchasing a piece in the country. And for us up here in northern Minnesota, people really enjoy being in the country, having that little bit of acreage and not being in downtown. We don't, it's not downtown like a huge metropolitan area, but they like to be on the outskirts of town, close enough to everything, but outside. So I found a 10-acre piece, and the building design and the footprint that I had laid out, I knew that I could do it in multiple stages. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually subdivided that property into two separate parcels. And then I was able to go through the permitting process through the township. And that's one thing that's great about the background that I have is being a city planner and being able to go back to being able to know how to talk to the planning and zoning department and talking to the planning commission and explaining what I want to do, since again doing it on the other side of the table. So that was a nice benefit that I was able to share and have. And so once I got all those permits and approvals, I was able to do that development. Then I did a couple buildings, 2 footprints on 5 acres, and then they were going to allow me to do that again on the other 5. Since that time, again, you get the NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And
Mm-hmm.
some of the neighbors were upset and concerned and wondering what I'm going to be building and who these tenants are going to be, and not wanting tenants because it was a piece of wooded land. And so you run into those issues. I did sell the other 5 acres to the neighbor just to be a good neighbor. But no, I was able to get those other buildings put up.
So let's talk about the acquisition. Like, what did you buy the total 10-acre piece for? And how did you finance that? Just with cash, or did you get, seller carry, or what?
Yeah, so up here, the land, especially getting in the country, it's not super high priced. I was able to purchase the 10 acres. I believe it was $80,000. $80,000 for those 10 acres. So I figured I got 40 into the one side. I did go to the bank. I got a great relationship with a bank that I've been working with for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to go to the bank and told them I want to buy this property. I'm definitely going to make it part of a bigger project. But yeah, I was able to finance it through them.
Oh, sweet. So you got financing on a land acquisition. Am I correct?
I did. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, there's only like a handful of banks, usually small community banks, that will do that. We have a relationship with one that I have like kind of like a tool in my back pocket, but that's awesome. So you had about $80,000 cost basis on this thing. The cost basis got a little bit of a haircut because you're able to carve out the other 5 acres and sell that to the neighbor. What'd you sell that to them for?
Yeah, I think it was $45,000 is what I sold it to them for. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay,
yep. So
cool.
I told them to, I just virtually, just to get my expenses out of it. It wasn't to make a bunch of money. It was, again, a smaller community. You just want to keep in good with the neighbors.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I was a director of operations for a national real estate development company. And when I took over on the actual like visioning and of a project for like, let's say apartments, for instance, I would always be adamant about engaging the community and neighborhood association first. Is like, hey, there's a property we're looking at. We're thinking about turning this old button factory into apartments. This is our vision. Want to get your feedback and that sort of thing. Because the thing in my experience is that a lot of times communities are used to a developer coming in and saying, hey, community, this is what we're going to do to you. And I think it's a great measure to avoid a lot of the pitfalls by like preemptively engaging that community first and just making it clear up front. Like, I'd love to have your feedback in terms of what you'd like to see here. This is our vision. I can't do everything you want because at the end of the day, I got to make a project that's going to, pencil and be worthwhile for our company. But that has definitely helped us a lot in terms of like when there is a, zoning board of appeals hearing, that you don't have a bunch of neighbors showing up with pitchforks and torches and stuff like that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. No, I agree with you 100%. It works a lot better to work with the community and the people involved.
So the two buildings on this 5-acre site, like what was the unit mix that you had in terms of your vision on this?
Yeah, these were 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and they all had attached 2-stall garages. They did them with definitely Class A and wanting to stand out, just stainless steel appliances, everything slow close hinges. Just went a little bit above and beyond to try to separate myself from the other items or other properties on the market.
So how many 3-bedroom units did you put on this site?
4.
Okay, 4. Excellent. So that was a vision. You had a plan put together. I'm imagining, were you just paying cash out of pocket to get the thing entitled and approved before a shovel went in the ground, or what?
Yeah, so no, there again, I was able to work with the bank, and like you pointed out too, those small community banks, if you can get a good relationship and rapport with them, do a project or do another project and keep them involved and have them come and see what you're doing. And this goes back to years ago. Pretty soon you come in and looking for money, they have a lot of faith in you, and the projects and the money become very easy. They believe in your underwriting. They definitely have a second set of eyes on it, but there becomes a big trust factor with them. So there too, just able to go to them, show them, provide them all the documents, all the bids, put together a huge scope of work, and yeah, they needed 20% down, willing to finance the rest. And there too, I was able to get a phenomenal interest rate. And this was only 2 years ago when we look at today's numbers, but I think it's at 3.79%. So
I was so jealous right now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a little bit different today.
All right. So we got the vision here. We kind of got like a lot of the pre-development work you talked about. Let's talk about when the rubber hit the road and this thing started turning into reality. Like, bring me kind of like full circle on this deal and, the things you learned in the process and what you'd advise other people that are looking to do the same thing on.
Yeah. Ground up construction can be a beast. And when you go into it with a plan, that plan is going to turn sideways a few different times. And yeah, we had a dirt contractor to get it all started, get the trees removed, do all that work. They ended up having a health issue. A new one comes in, and, just from what the estimate says of what they're going to be doing to what they actually did, along with the costs, varied greatly. So we sit with a site that's full of downed trees, and I'm not really sure where to go from here, because that they didn't, the thought wasn't to go any farther than that. So it quickly turned into a mess before we even start pouring concrete. But no, we were able to get somebody in, get that site cleaned up, cleared out, and prepped and ready. So that was kind of the first. The second one was pretty soon. The plumbing's in the ground, the concrete's poured, and then you get a call from the contractor that says, "Hey, I don't believe this bathroom, something's off here." So we start pulling tape measures, and then you find out that's off. So now we're cutting into brand new concrete, trying to move plumbing that's buried in these skyline grade properties. So every time you turn around, there is a new issue that you have to conquer. Probably, the biggest thing is when you're scratching the numbers together, you add that contingency into it. I strongly recommend don't ever do less than 20% on top of what you think it's going to be. Because we did 20. By the time we got done, it had to be closer to that 27%. So that's a big difference, because now the bank's already set the loan. Any overages you have up and above and beyond, that's coming straight out of your pocket to fill the gap. So that can be very tricky. We're also doing it during the pandemic. So I get a call from the contractor. He says, hey, the windows aren't in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how much longer are we thinking? He says, they're not really sure. I said, wow. And I should back up and say, the first time he says, the windows are going to be pushed back 2 weeks. Okay. 2 weeks go by and he says, the windows are going to be pushed back at least 2 more weeks. So we got about a week and a half into that. He was finishing up what he needed to do. But then I called him and I said, hey, what about these windows? He said, let me check. We get on the call. They don't know when they're going to come now. Mm-hmm. So I said, finish up and then we'll get the electricians in there. He calls me back and says the electricians won't come because the windows aren't in. Mm-hmm. And we need, the windows aren't in and they need the place sealed up. Mm-hmm. I said, perfect. I said, we have a lot of OSB sitting outside. I said, tack that on the windows and it's sealed up. To make a real long story short, we don't have, we continue to work on the outside and get all that done. Windows still aren't in. We're talking 2.5 months, 3 months later. So now we're putting up sheetrock. We actually have it taped. We have it painted. We're setting appliances and the windows show up. 20% of them aren't even right.
Oh my God.
So anyways, we keep on plugging along. We are now putting heat into the building because it's getting cold. And we ended up getting it all done. Everything is set, ready. The flooring's in. Everything's ready. And we are still missing 2 windows. Thankfully, I was able to go to Home Depot, and they had the windows that we needed. We got those set, and finished that up and had people moving in on December 1st. The windows were set on November 26th or something like that. So, yeah, it's just being able to roll the punches.
Yeah. So to kind of circle this, to fill the rest of the story of this one out, what was the kind of the business plan from a financial standpoint? It sounds like you got construction financing on it. Did this bank convert it to permanent automatically once you had occupancy? Tell us a little about that, and what were you able to get that 20% back out by doing a refinance, by doing permanent? Kind of tell us about that story.
Yeah. So they ended up carrying it just interest only on the note until it was occupied. Once it was fully occupied, then the regular loan just kicked in. And It's a 5-year, your typical community bank, 5-year balloon, 30-year amortization. So yeah, we're just still paying on that. I've got 3 more years left on that. Hopefully, about 3, 2.5. But no, hopefully the interest rates in this time will come down a little bit and make those numbers still good. I have, and we always need to stress test our numbers. The numbers, I've stress tested them even at today's interest rates, and I'll still cash flow. It'll be almost a break even, but it'll cash flow a little bit. But yeah, we'll be able to carry that over for the rest of this term, and then on the 5-year balloon, and then work with the bank and renegotiate from there. But I did the 20% overage. That's all been left in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then hopefully you get an equity pop when you go to refinance it. And also, let's say people are projecting rates to, start dropping in late 2024, 2025. Who knows? We don't got a crystal ball or anything like that. But no, it'd definitely be a good deal. So kind of looking at, hindsight being 2020, I have a question actually. Why 4 units and not 5?
Yeah, so I ended up they're 2 separate buildings. And just kind of with the layout that I had there, that those building footprints fit about perfect in there, which is why I want that unit size. Yeah.
I always ask that because if you go to 5, then you can get commercial appraisals and stuff like that, and be able to be, doing NOI driven rather than comp driven appraisals and valuations. So yeah, but if you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it. So
yeah, no, you're right though. Yeah. Adding one more could have been a game changer on the financing side.
Mm-hmm. So we were talking in the green room a little bit before. You're an active syndicator. I definitely want to talk on some, we talked about some battle scars with this deal you did, but in the larger deal space, you were telling me about 2 active deals that you guys were going to do, and they blew up. So I kind of want to take the time in the rest of the show to kind of walk through that and kind of paint a picture of what's been going on out there in the deal space and the multifamily syndication realm. If you can bring us up to speed on that.
Yeah, definitely. So as you know, the deals are a lot harder to find. There's just not as many out there. The prices that people are needing are still a little bit high. They've
Hmm.
definitely come down, but still definitely hard to get them to pencil out. We were able to find, it was actually a flex space industrial property, and had it under contract and working with the owner. Phenomenal deal. The owner's wanting to stay in on it, finance it, hold the note, and then we're going to build an additional 46,000 square feet of industrial on there, the
Hmm.
flex space. And yeah, we sent everything out to our investors. We were getting ready to raise capital, and the people that I was going to partner with that found the deal, put the deal together, they got a call or a letter from the city, and one of their properties had been not maintained the way that the management company had indicated that they had. A lot of issues with the city, code violations, and during your asset management calls, talking with the property management company on them, they indicated that they were addressing them, and everything was good and pretty close to having everything done. The next time mentioned that everything's good to go now with the city. But the guys that put the syndication together, they got a letter in the mail that you have 30 days or else. And they're like, what? So there too, you backpedal, try to call the city and explain, apologize up and down that we were not made aware of this.
Hmm.
The correspondence is going to the property management company, and they indicated that they had done all this stuff for us and everything is good, but it's not. So yeah, you can run into stuff like that. A lot of battle scars that you hear can come from the property management companies. And we put a lot of faith in what they say and what they're doing. And a lot of them do a great job. But when this does happen, everything's got to go on pause. Naturally, they need to look for a new property management company. They need to take care of the issues at hand with the city. And I don't know a ton of the details, but just through conversation and letting us know. And it's neat because they took the liberty of just saying, you know what, we got to take the industrial property right now and just put it on hold. We really need to just wait, put a pause on this, and make sure that we make right with the city and our investors to make sure this property continues to operate appropriately. So that was a tough one. You spend a lot of time, there's a lot of energy putting deals together, and they don't work. As we all know, you spend a
Hmm.
lot of time sifting through them to find those couple to put under contract, and then to get them that close to the finish line, and then they fall apart. That can hurt. That's tough.
Yeah, absolutely gut wrenching. So, what was your responsibility in this partnership? Was it raising capital or asset management? What was your responsibility going to be?
Yeah, so raising capital, they're definitely going to be raising capital for it, assisting
Hmm.
them with the asset management. And then with the new construction side of things, also any communications that needed to be done with the city in regards to site design, easements, and working with the engineering company that was doing the site plans and reviewing the city ordinances just to make sure that everything was good. The biggest thing when you're going to work with the city and you're working with that zoning department is to make sure that they're on board with the project that you're doing. You want to make sure that before if it's going to require a public hearing, that you have the city staff on your side and they're okay with it. Because
Hmm.
if you have a set of plans, the city staff isn't really excited, you can still submit and bring application. But if they're going to go in front of the board, present the project and say, I'm not comfortable nor in favor of this, could be the way it's going to go. So just building that relationship with the city staff of, from day one. And you mentioned it earlier too, just getting that community involvement, showing them what you want to do and why it's going to be an asset to the community, how it meets the current city codes. And again, if it doesn't, or you need a variance or something from that you work closely with the city staff to negotiate and be able to come up with a mutual consensus of what is doable for that property to get it across that finish line.
So, on the capital raising side of things, like, did you already have like all of the investor capital like committed to this deal at that point in time?
Yeah. We had talked about the amount of capital that we were all going to bring to the table, and I did. I had all the investors lined up and ready to go. All they needed and wanted was the wiring instructions, and to
Hmm.
review the all the documents, the legal documents, and that. But no, I had spent a lot of time kind of educating them throughout the process, where we were at, what was going on, and I had a lot of good interest in that property too. So it's always tough to have to make that phone call back to them and let them know that it's on pause for a little while. We definitely haven't given up on it. We definitely want to look at the first part of 2024 making this happen again. But yeah, it's always fun to talk with your investors and get them excited and interested in it, but then to let them down, it's always hard. So
Yeah. Now, what was your total raise that you did on this? You did on this deal in terms of
the,
monetary?
the yeah, the total raise on it was going to be $6 million. My goal is to raise 750 to a million.
Okay, excellent. So, what was your? Because this is a big thing that I want to talk a little bit about. It's intimidating for people to start, thinking about raising capital and that sort of thing. What was your methodology leading up to those commitments that you used? Because I'd still attribute that to as a win, getting the commitment on there, because raising capital now is harder than ever. So, tell us about that.
Yeah, it is definitely getting harder. And so for me, it's just become a lot of education, a lot of explaining. I think there's, with the media and everything else, just the fear of what's happening out there and letting them know that there are still some good deals out there. We are
Mhm.
spending a lot more time trying to find these good deals, but they are still out there. So whenever I can provide them with content, news articles, both good and bad, but constantly just dripping information to them every 2 weeks. I don't want to inundate them and have them start to see, my name in their inbox again and deleting it without even looking at it. But you also
Mhm.
don't want them to think, well, maybe he's not working on anything or anything. So trying to find that happy medium between there. So I try to do about an every 2 week campaign, just providing them with information and content about what we're doing and what we're working on.
Let's back up a little bit. Where did these contacts originally come from? Were these in your friends and family sphere, professional contact sphere, maybe a combination of those and people that maybe kind of came into your ecosystem after that? Tell us about kind of like where these people came from.
Yeah, a lot of the people are friends and family. Yeah, and as we all do, you try to get that word of mouth and have them explain. Friends that have other friends that they know that have some money and not really sure what to do with it, and getting to meet those mutual friends through that. But it's tricky. It's a lot of time. You spend a lot of time explaining and educating what's going on. But for the most part, it's just kind of been the core. Definitely always looking to meet others that are interested. But for the most part, it's been the core family, friends, and acquaintances.
So true. I mean, there's so many people that get psyched out about raising capital and that sort of thing. And, I can't raise money from friends and family. I can't do business with friends and family. I mean, one of my guests who's a 22-year-old Jason Nichols, who like raised like $500,000 for a self-storage deal, said something that just has lasted me to this point in time. Is like, if you can't do business with friends and family, who can you do business with? And and I talk about that as like, these people, they may not be your entire equity capital stack forever, but they're sort of like your seed investors that help you establish that track record to build upon. And sometimes the well gets deeper with that sphere as you give them positive results and deliver financial results to them that are in line with their goals. And then also you get a track record because there's a lot of people that those first like 50 people you talk to, 90% of them may not participate in that first big deal, but they're interested in the concept of passively investing in real estate, but they kind of want to see you execute on that. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, no, and you're spot on. Like you said, if you've got a list of 50 or 100 people, a lot of them are going to, they enjoy seeing the content. And for a lot of us, they've maybe didn't start raising capital right away. Like for me, I started bootstrapping it on my own. But they see what you're doing and they're interested. And they're like, a number of times they're like, hey, Mike, I see what you're doing. I want to be involved. But I
Mm-hmm.
do not want to deal with, I don't want anybody calling me. Yeah, it's like, no, I get it. So after you hear that for enough times and having friends that have been doing syndications for years, you just realize that that being able to go bigger and bring people in on good investments and allow them to make a good return on their capital. That's what's been satisfying for me and fulfilling, because yeah, they are busy. They
Mm-hmm.
like to spend their time, maybe it's camping, fishing, or just going on vacations and not wanting, or they just don't have the personality to deal with property management companies or even tenants on their own. They've talked about buying a single family home or a duplex or something small, but they're like, I don't want to deal with any of that. So it's been neat educating them about being able to get, good returns investing passively. And like you said, it's planting the seeds. A lot of them are going to sit on the sidelines and just watch for a little bit. They're going to want you to be able to execute one or two plans, be able to see the returns that you're providing, and then ease in. And it makes sense. When we're talking about a minimum investment of $50,000, that is a fair amount of money. And if they're going to let that go, they want to make sure that they know, like, and trust you. So.
Absolutely. So we are wrapping up the recorded version of this before we launch into live Q&A. Last question I want to ask you is, for those people that are experienced investors that are looking to swim upstream into larger commercial deals and not sure how, what words of advice would you give them in terms of actionable type of stuff they can do now?
Yeah, you really have to dive in. If that's getting a mentor, I think that really will speed up your time frame. Being around people that do it, if you're depending on where you're wanting to go, I guess I should back up to that. But you got to be educated, and you need to spend the time. You don't want to just start dabbling in it and trying it and really seeing how it goes. There's enough people that have done this. Work with them. Truly enjoy helping people that want to get into this and provide some guidance, because we've all had some mishaps, and it's a lot easier to learn from theirs than to dive in and do it on your own and learn the hard way. So definitely get around those that have done it and have a track record, because that will shorten your learning curve so much. But podcasts, like yours, definitely listen to podcasts. You're going to glean a lot of great information. There's a ton of good books, but you can only do that so long. You've got to dive in, but you want to dive in with somebody that has experience. And if it's giving your time to do different things on that project, the amount of knowledge you're going to learn just from working side by side is going to be astronomical.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And I'd say my dad used to say the real estate business is the idiot's business. The margins of error are pretty wide, but you got to do several blunders to make things, fatal. But with commercial, it's the same margins of error, but instead of getting your, one tooth kicked in, you might get stabbed in the gut and left bleeding out onto the floor. So it's always good to have somebody that's been in the trenches before that can say, hey, don't do that or do this based upon experience with all the nuances that are in commercial, because there's a lot of formulaic stuff you can apply to residential. This is the formula, apply it. But when you get into the commercial space, there's just so many different moving parts and so many nuances to it that every question you ask is always going to have the answer of, quote unquote, it depends.
Yeah, most definitely. And these large are one team sport,
Yeah, 100%. So, all right, we're to get into our live Q&A with our audience. We already got some questions that have flooded in. So if you're listening to this right now and you want to get exclusive access to live Q&A with absolute titans like Mike and like Gina Barbaro, Matt Faircloth, Ashley Kerr, Reed Goosens, all of the people that are active in the commercial space, you got to join the Facebook group, Go Big Live Real Estate Investors Group. It's totally free. Come on in and I'll give you the invite. And without further ado, we're going to sign out. Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you.